What's up, Cam?
Not much, Mitchell. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Doing all right. Hanging in there.
I'm glad that we're back.
Yeah.
I've missed our chats.
I know it's been a month. It's felt weird not talking to you a couple weeks ago.
So your full name's Mitchell, right? I just assumed.
Yeah. So I've always gone by Mitch. My there's only maybe like 3 people in my life that consistently call me Mitchell. One would be my mom. One is an ex-girlfriend. And one is a girl that I work with right now that just thinks it's hilarious to call me Mitchell instead of Mitch, which I don't know why she finds it so funny, but
Some people are broken.
yeah. But it has the added benefit of solving a problem that I had growing up. I would get into my first day of school almost every year. And then, of course, when you get into school and you have multiple teachers, I would have this problem multiple times over the first couple of days of school. That everybody saw my name and thought it was a mistake, that it should be Craig Mitchell instead of Mitchell Craig. So I was constantly saying, no, it's my first name is Mitch. Oh, and they make the mark. And I still have people that call me Craig instead of Mitchell.
That's funny.
There's a couple of guys at church that have not embraced Mitchell as my first name. So
That's pretty funny. I hadn't considered that, but that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. So, but the problem is that I sign on to everything that I do as Mitch Craig or Radio Mitch, depending on what it is. But there are so many different. There are a lot of Mitch Craigs out there. I think we've talked about the one that I run into that is a voiceover talent that owns my URL. That when he dies, I'm going to buy it.
Yikes!
So, isn't there's like sites that you can sign up to stalk a URL?
I'm not aware of these.
I thought there was at least years ago where you could put the URL into a site, and then that site would check it like every day to see if it's available. And then when it, like if somebody lapsed on their registration or something like that, you'd get an email saying, "Hey, it's available," and then you could snap in and buy it up. And I thought about doing that, but this guy would probably sue me and
Seems a little mean spirited.
get it back. Well, he's rich and I'm not.
He can't sue you for buying an available URL.
Or, it'd probably be more like trade dress. I would be impacting his business negatively and he could probably make a claim. So, but I get email from him on Google because apparently he's got an email address close enough to my name because that punctuation doesn't mean anything on Gmail.
Yeah.
So if you have, like your email address has a period in it, that doesn't mean that whoever owns your URL without the period doesn't get your email. I get email from mitch.craig@gmail.com all the time. There's a guy that lives in Michigan. And there's a guy in Canada I think I've got an email from. The big one is a guy that works for the Fuji Water Company that I get an email of his every once in a while. I have gotten car insurance emails. The guy in Michigan actually goes to a church in Michigan and he was involved in a study, and I was getting all his emails for a while from this study until I finally emailed the lady that was sending out the email saying, "Hey, you want to clarify your email address because you're sending it to the wrong place." And then I haven't gotten any from him since then. But the Fuji Water Company makes me laugh because I get his emails because he apparently travels a lot, and I got a email once saying, "Hey, this is just to confirm your hotel room here. Please email us and let us know if you need to cancel." There was an evil part of me that was really tempted to send an email back saying, "Oh, I won't be able to make it."
Yeah, I'd like to upgrade to the penthouse, please. Put it on my card.
Right. Anyway, so did you finally got snow down there recently?
Finally.
Finally?
Bro, we've had 3 winter storms in the last 4 weeks. We've got
that's like amateur hour up here.
We've got dumped on multiple times.
So, we had talked not long ago about
Also,
that,
I
and you
love that
hadn't
you.
really
I love
gotten
that you
much.
referred to me as down there.
Down there.
Yeah, because I'm such a southerner up here in
Well,
northern
you're about
Illinois.
4 or 5 hours from me, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
we've gotten way more snow than you have.
how much snow do you have?
I will say that if you walk down the sidewalk right now, and the sidewalk is well shoveled, you're anywhere from halfway up to the knee to up to the knee in most areas, and snow
Yeah,
that's
we have
just sitting.
just as much snow as you. Not that it's a competition, but we have just as much.
I don't know how that's possible with you being so far down south.
For those not watching, the look of exasperation and befuddlement on my face is extreme. So far south, I'm 45 miles south of Chicago.
Oh, I just got to give you a hard time.
Oh, you're acting like I'm some Southern Floridian down here in Key West.
I know, right? At least you're not in Texas right now, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I saw a meme. And of course, with any internet meme, you have to take it with a massive grain of salt, and because it's meant to be funny, even though I know that there was some serious stuff going down in Texas. But the line was Texans, all caps, don't mess with Texas, snow, falls, Texans, and it's a lady just like in the fetal position crying. The spirit of it is funny, but I realized that it really did put a lot of people in very, 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 very bad situations. But the juxtaposition of don't mess with Texas and then snow just doing what it does, which is fall from the sky and it shuts the whole state down, was pretty humorous.
I will tell you that I feel bad for him, but at the same time, like I'm sitting up here thinking to myself, sitting up here with, we're expecting like 3 to 4 inches of snow tomorrow. And it's been sub-zero temperatures for weeks now. And I'm sitting here watching the news coverage and like trying to understand what they're going through down there and failing epically, because I just apparently they don't have furnaces. I can kind of understand why that
there's no infrastructure.
That makes sense down there.
There's no infrastructure for them to deal with it because it doesn't happen. So there's no need, except for the one time a decade or two it happens, right? But
yeah, and I mean the retail outlet that I work for, being as big as it is, and as and then the supply chain that it has, we run out of heaters in the winter. So I can't imagine what happened down south, where they might keep like a half a dozen heaters on the shelf because they just don't sell, and all of a sudden they need a massive amount of heaters. So, which, I mean, the company that I work for does a pretty good job of sending emergency truckloads of stuff to places where it's needed. I mean, I'm sure they probably had pallets and pallets of heaters sitting in the aisles to sell, and they probably sold most of them too. Because we've seen that here, where we end up with flooding, and all of a sudden we've got sub pumps and all kinds of pumps, and we haven't really carried sandbags, but we got something in a few years ago that's kind of a sandbag type item that's just to help you out with like little small leaks and stuff. But I can't remember what it's called. It's like Instadam or something like that. It's yeah. I have the Super Bowl predictions in the show notes for today too, because we haven't talked in so long. When we did record the last episode, as the episode was released, the Super Bowl is pretty much getting started.
Yeah, great timing on that one. We're going up against the Super Bowl.
So I failed epically at my prediction, and you nailed your prediction. By accident, of course, I'm sure, but unless you put a lot of statistical research into just irking me. But
no, what was my prediction? I forget. Was it Tampa Bay and Kansas City?
It was, yeah.
Okay,
and I said Packers and Bills.
Oh yeah, you
and
did.
Of course that didn't happen.
Swing and miss.
So, yep. So I don't remember if we picked a winner or not, but
yeah, I don't know. It was
I don't think we did.
4 years ago. Feels like.
Yeah, it feels like 4 years ago, right?
It's been a long month, man.
Oh, it has been. So speaking of which, 4 weeks ago, you took the drafts challenge. You
I
were going to
did.
work with drafts and see if you could handle it. So I'm interested to see how this turned out.
Right. So what I did was I put the drafts complication on my Apple Watch. I changed the shortcut on my iPhone home screen to, instead of launching IA Writer, to launch drafts. So same location, same button, but just opening a different item.
Mm-hmm.
I added drafts to the dock on my MacBook and my Mac Mini, so I had it in all the right places. I didn't use the complication on my watch once, which is not a reflection on drafts, but is more of a reflection on how I use my Apple Watch. It turns out I don't ever use my Apple Watch in that way. I use it to check the weather. I use it to do the workouts on my Apple TV. I use it, to check the time, ironically. But that's about it. I used it on my phone quite a bit, but I use it on my Mac the most. I actually did all of my youth group prep for the last month on drafts instead of IA Writer. Interestingly, or not, depending on your point of view here, I didn't use a single one of the automations. I just literally used it as a place to store text. I didn't use it to do like reminders and then send it to reminders. I use my Australian male voiced Siri because it's just funnier that way.
So just an aside here, I far prefer a female voice for that, but
no, mine's
to each their own, man.
Mine's a male Australian, and it's glorious. I wish when I would say good morning to him, he'd say "Good day, mate," but he doesn't. He just says, "Good morning. The scene is set," which is a little less, what's the word? Whimsical. But anyways, so I used it only really as a text capture app. I didn't use any of the send it to here or send it to there, which again I think is not a reflection on the application, but is a reflection on how I use text capture, which is I write it down and it just stays there until I choose to delete it. If I want to add stuff to reminders, I talk to Siri in my HomePod, or I type it into Good Task on my phone, depending on if I'm home or I'm out and about. I don't really send tag. If I want to write an email, I write it in the email client. That being said, Drafts is a really, really good application, but I do not use it to near the extent or capability that it has built in. And so while it's been nice using it for the past 4 weeks, I have realized there's no reason why I need to use Drafts over IA Writer because I'm not using Drafts for what it can actually do. I'm really just using it as a place to store plain text. And in that case, I'd rather use IA Writer because I like the way that IA Writer looks better than I like the way that Drafts looks visually.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with that for the most part. Drafts for me is just that place where like I need to take a note or I need to write something down or I don't have to think about where I'm going to put it. That's just where it goes. And you're right. I don't use the actions all that often. There are power users out there that, have really harnessed a lot of that stuff. I think one of the things that I do use as far as an action is concerned is if I'm at work and I need to like pound out a bunch of tasks. I'm walking with my manager or something like that, and I'm typing in tasks real quick, or there is a Todoist action that will allow multiple items to be added to Todoist out of drafts, and all you got to do is have a line break between them. And so, that's how I tend to do that. So,
yeah, and that goes to the differences you and I have in our task, the way that we handle our task management, right? Like, and it's also the difference in our work, in our jobs, right? So, like, you're walking with your manager, I got to do, and you're so much more granular in your task capture than I am. So that it totally makes sense that would be something that you would use to get your tasks done the way that you prefer to do it. So yeah, that makes total sense. But just the way that I operate, I'm not saying the way that I operate's the right way. It's just habits, right? Like I'm
no,
so ingrained in how I do things with my technology in this way that even after 4 weeks, I even built a custom action in Drafts for reminders where I could put like the list and I could like all this stuff. I spent the time to do it and I didn't use it one time, even though I knew it was there and I took the time to build it, just because habits, right? And I'm just used to doing things a certain way. So I tried and I didn't fail because I actually used it, and I didn't use IA Writer once that whole time. But I'm going to go back to IA Writer just because it feels silly to use 10% of an application when I can use 100% of another application that I actually think looks nicer and I enjoy using. So that being said, Drafts is a really, really good application. You should give it a shot if you're into the action stuff, but it's just not, it's too much for me.
Yeah. And I think part of it for me is it's just, it's where I came from, so we, like you said, we develop our habits, and I don't use Drafts a ton, but when I do use it, it works really well for me. So I don't have the need to do a lot of the things that you're doing with IA Writer either. I don't write that much. So all right. Well, we talked a little bit about. Well, I should preface this with some quick conversation about something my wife told me the other day. She's been really enjoying the program, but she's like, "You guys were talking about something the other day," and she's like, "And then you totally just turned on a dime and switched into your first topic." She's like, "I wanted to hear more about that." Which, I went back and listened to it, and it was our discussion about TV. And we were talking about some of the shows that we watch, and pretty much we weren't really discussing it. I mean, we were talking about WandaVision at the time, and neither one of us had really. I think I might have seen an episode of it, or we were just talking, kind of spitballing a little bit about where it might be going or whatever. And although she did tell me it was what she was really wanted to hear more about was your take on The Rookie. Because I think she has a bit of a crush on Nathan Fillion.
I like it. It's a good show. I'm 2 episodes behind. I like to save those episodes up and watch like 2 or 3 in one shot. So I'm 2 episodes behind right now. And so actually that was on my to-do list this weekend was to get caught up on The Rookie. But I like the balance of humor and lightheartedness. Like every episode starts with like a sort of off-kilter humorous beginning, and then they go to the title scene, and then they hop into whatever the episode's about. And there's a nice balance of like real world stuff with some humor, and some episodes are super, super heavy on the drama, and some episodes are lighter. I like that each episode, while it's the same show, you're not really sure what you're going to get. Maybe one of the cops gets captured by a serial killer and buried in a barrel in the desert, or maybe they're just in a neighborhood trying to clean it up. Like you don't really know what each episode's going to go. So it's not like a Monster of the Week episode or show in that sort of way, even though it kind of is. I just like that it sits kind of across multiple genres, and you're not really sure which one it's going to focus on each week. Sometimes there's a story that spans a couple episodes. Sometimes there's a story that's contained in one. And I like that it's not like Law and Order, where it's a contained episode every week for 25 years, which my mom loves that stuff, right? But not for me.
Yeah, I think the shows that I think of when you talk about like a formulaic crime drama is your CSIs.
Oh God, yeah, I can't do those.
I mean, they're really clean, like 3-act shows, and one thing, like if they are using those formulas, they're mixing them up, so that you're not getting the same thing every episode.
Yeah, and like to me, like the rookie is not like it's not challenging me intellectually or philosophically. Like it's entertainment. It's not something I go for intellectual stimulation or, pondering the wonders of the universe. Like for me, it's like, oh, this is 45 minutes of fun. I can relax. I can kind of somewhat turn my brain off and just enjoy, a good joke here, a decent action scene here. It's not one of my favorite shows of all time. Like, it's not Battlestar Galactica, it's not Lost. Like, it doesn't even scratch that tier of TV for me, but I still really enjoy it. And sometimes I just want to enjoy a show. And I love the cast. I think it's really well cast. I think they did a good job of balancing a few known actors with a lot of people I'd never seen before. It's a diverse cast, which I enjoy, which brings a lot to the show. Because it's a show about police, so inherent in that is race relations in America, and so you get that aspect of it.
And you're getting that a lot this season.
Yes.
Just because of the climate. So.
Well, and I'm glad that they're not shying away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think they're handling it tastefully, at least as a couple of white guys watching it, it seems tasteful.
Yeah, it's an entertaining show. I enjoys it. But again, it's not Lost and it's not Battlestar Galactica. So,
get a chance to watch WandaVision at all?
Not yet. I did watch Mandalorian season 2 though. Oh man.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yep, it is.
So good.
Some of the criticisms of the second season are legit. Just, the way that's just become the Dave Filoni show. Just bringing in so much stuff from the Clone Wars and Rebels, but it's good. It's still super good.
So as someone who's actually watching Clone Wars for the first time,
mm-hmm.
I was like, Ahsoka's only in one episode? What the heck?
Yeah.
Like, but there's also stuff that I haven't even gotten to yet in Clone Wars or Rebels. So like the two Mandalorians, Katie Sackhoff and Sasha Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mercedes Renato. Gonna use her real name.
I don't know if her character specifically shows up anywhere, but Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff's character, does.
I was like, why can she take her helmet off, but Mando can't? And one of my friends that's been pushing me to watch all this, she was like, bro, Clone Wars and Rebels. I was like, I'm not there yet. And then we had this whole thing, and I was like, well, wouldn't that like lead to like a civil war? And she's like, oh my gosh, just watch Clone Wars and Rebels. It's already happened. And then legit 2 episodes later in Clone Wars, we show up a Mandalore, and I was like, this is so cool. Yep. So it might, as someone who's experiencing it for the first time, it is knowing that like what I'm watching in Clone Wars and we'll watch in Rebels is going to lead to broader storylines and interactions. Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool. But that, again, just one guy's opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a meme, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but, the Mandalorians were at war with the Jedi. The Mandalorians were at war with the Republic. The Mandalorians were at war with the Sith. The Mandalorians were at war with the Mandalorians. It's like, the whole idea was that, there always seemed to be a war.
But Duchess Satine is a pacifist.
So yeah, it is going to be kind of cool if they open some of that up in these series. It's just, I think the thing that was a little bit jarring for me in the second season of The Mandalorian was just how heavy it was. I mean, if that would have been a 20 episode arc with that, with a few episodes here and there that mix some of that stuff in to tell the story, totally would have been fine. But in an 8 episode arc where you have, 2, 3, 4 episodes that cross over into the Clone Wars and Rebels, it just felt a little heavy. So, but and then having, and I don't want to spoil anything, but then having a major player in the Skywalker saga show up at the very end was I mean, yeah, it's one of those fall off your seat moments, and I knew something was going to happen, and I almost hoped it wasn't going to be him. I was hoping it was going to be another character, but then it just made sense that it was him. So, in the greater picture.
Yeah, that was the one thing I got spoiled on. But I had totally forgotten, because I waited so long to watch season 2 that I had totally forgotten about it until it started happening. And I was like, and it all came rushing back. And then I got to re-experience it. So,
well, his ship flies up to the, or docks with the ship that they're in. And then the lightsaber hilt gets revealed a couple of times. Mm-hmm. It's like, they just played it really well. to the point where you finally see his face and you're like, oh crap, it's, yeah.
And we're all like, I didn't know Han Solo had a lightsaber. Oh, who knew?
Oh, I'm going to pull your geek card. That was terrible.
I got a good laugh out of it, though.
Yep. We'll talk a little bit about Star Wars later with my what's delighting me today, but first, you have something in here in our show notes about Readwise.
Yes, so I dangled this carrot a while ago, and do you know what Readwise is, Mitch, or should I start from scratch?
No, I saw it in the show notes, and you may want to talk about what it is for the listeners. But I did download it a little bit and have played with it a little bit, and it's intriguing.
Yeah, so I have Ali Abdaal to thank and blame for this. For those of you that are not familiar with Ali, he is a doctor over in the UK who also runs a YouTube channel because apparently doctors have all sorts of spare time. And he's brilliant. I enjoy his channel, and one of the things that I have stolen from him is Readwise. And so essentially what Readwise is, and it's readwise.io is the website. It is a place that you can...
I put it in the show notes.
Awesome. You can sync your highlights from all sorts of places. So you can sync from Pocket, from Twitter, from Medium, from Apple Books, from Instapaper, from Kindle. There's a podcast client called Air, AIRR, that you can take quotes in, and those will sync with Readwise as well. There's a web highlighter, like you can integrate with Goodreads and Feedly. Like you can do CSV import, and you can also, and this is the part that's cool for me, because while I do read occasionally in Apple Books or Kindle or Instapaper, I am a physical book guy. I like the freedom of being able to write in the margins, and I have different like symbols I used for various types of highlights and brackets and all that sort of stuff. But you can, in Readwise on your phone, you can take pictures of your book, and the OCR is spot on. Like there's been stuff where some of my underlines have gone through words because I'm going too fast, and it still captures it, no sweat. And then you can import it into a book in Readwise, and it stores all your highlights from all of those different places. It keeps them up to date, which is super cool just for that. But what it also does is that you can get either on the app on your phone or an email, it will send you highlights every day, so that you're being presented with the things that you've read on a regular basis to keep it fresh in your mind, to spark new ideas. And then you can choose like, oh, I want to favorite this. I want to keep this. Oh, I don't want to keep this quote anymore. And it will remove it. It'll still keep it in the highlights database, but will remove it from your regular review. And it over time it makes sure that it's pulling highlights from all different things. So you're not just getting the same highlights over and over again, which is, I find it's very helpful. There's been a couple times where I'm like, oh man, that really is a good quote. Boom, share an Instagram story. Because like, oh, this quote, like I haven't read this book in 2 years, but man, this quote is like really awesome, and I want to share it with my friends. And so you can export it that way. But then if you want to get real nerdy, you can sync your Readwise with Notion, with Roam, with Evernote. Then you can also export it as a CSV or a Markdown document as well. So I actually have Notion and Roam set up as exports. So anytime I add a highlight to Readwise, it also sends it to those places. And the reason I have it in both is because I'm just testing. I just want to see how it handles the export. So it is a repository for all of the highlights and notes that you've taken in books, in articles, and in my case, I started using the Air podcast client for specific podcasts, not for all. Because like there's some podcasts I know, like it's a tech show, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm not going to want to save a quote. But like some of my other more like theology-based podcasts, I'm like, oh, there's probably going to be, the chance of me wanting to take a quote from this show are extremely higher, than this other show. So I have enjoyed it, and I got I started the 1 month trial 2 months ago. And then because I had less than 200 quotes, they gave me another free month. And then literally, Mitch, as we were starting talking, I had to sign up for my 2 months of free trial were up. So I had to sign up for it today. But the one downside, and then I'll shut up, is that I've got a lot of physical books. And so the process of going through all of those books to add all the highlights is incredibly daunting to me. And I just don't want to do it. But I know that I should, because once I get them in there, then they're there, and then I can get them out in any way that I want. So it's one of those things where it's like I might, throw a movie on later today and try and get through a couple books and just do it, over the next couple of months. But I'm a big fan of I love the daily highlights and getting to get insights that I thought were interesting, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Some of these books that I have in there, I haven't read in 2 years, 3 years. So if that at all sounds intriguing to you, you can get a full month free trial, and you may get extended to 2 free months like I did, based on how many quotes you have or highlights you have in there. I will say, we can get free months if you use my link or Mitch's link, if Mitch is going to do it. That feels a little weird. I don't know. I don't want to try and get free months out of people, but it's worth checking out, in my estimation.
Have you used the widget at all?
I have it installed on my 2 Macs, but I don't really do a lot of reading on my Macs. If I'm reading something online, it's usually on my phone or my iPad. And in that case, I just send it to Instapaper, and I do the highlights. Oh, the widget. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
The widget.
Sorry, yeah. I thought you meant extension. Yeah, no, I have the widget installed on my phone as well, and it's in a stack with my Bible app. So I've got verse of the day, and then I've got quote of the day. Yes, I have the widget installed, and it's quite nice too. But I do like the daily highlights because you get 3, you get multiple. And they're usually different than the widget, which is nice.
I could see this being huge for like going through, like I've got an old Bible that I've got a ton of highlights in, and just going, page by page through and capturing each highlight. Not that they're all super significant for me, but the one thing that this app is really missing for me is Logos integration. And I don't see that that's going to happen.
I was going to say, that's really wishful thinking, dude.
Yeah. But being able to pull all those highlights in, because I'm not joking, I have so many highlights and so much in Logos already that
well, that's so
that's the missing part.
And honestly, I think your best hope for that is the Rome API, because there's a bunch of nerds. Like, the only reason I use Rome is for tracking Bible study and sermon notes, and so I can have that whole graph that connects all the studies that I'm doing, the sermons that I'm hearing, the books that I'm reading that are specifically about theology and doctrine and faith. And as soon
How do you
as
spell that?
ROAM, Rome Research.
Oh, ROAM. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. It's amazing. It's got all the backlinking, and it's like super, still really, really fresh. But there's stuff being built with the private API that eventually is going to become public. And at that point, that's when I think you're going to get some Bible nerds who are going to be like, boom, Logos into Rome, and you're going to be in a nerd heaven. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen with Readwise anytime soon. But that would be pretty cool.
Wow, Rome has two levels for subscriptions: professional and believer.
Yeah,
$165 a year or $500 for 5 years.
Is it $165? I think it's gone up. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's $165. It's $15 a month if you want to pay monthly.
I think they've increased the price. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I'll have to look into this.
Notion's for free, Mitch, I think.
Notion? Yeah, I don't know if I want to become a Notion nerd though. That's that just sounds like a rat hole that I do not I'm never going to come out of.
Fair enough.
So cool. Yeah, I think it's a really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool resource. I've been enjoying it. Just I put the widget on my second home screen on my phone. It's in a stack, but I kept it surfaced at the top of the stack, and I like it. It's reminded me, like I have you read Thou Shalt Hustle?
No.
Are you laughing at me for reading it, or
No, I was laughing at the name.
Mike Schmidt, I think it is, who
From the Sweet Setup.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. He was on, or I don't know if he's still on with Max Sparky. I don't know why his name is escaping me right
David
now.
Sparks.
David Sparks. Yeah. But I thought that he took over, or he was added to the Mac Power Users podcast at one point.
Well, it's David Sparks and Stephen Hackett.
Okay, what am I thinking? Oh, it was a different podcast. I'm spacing on the name right now.
But yeah, so I know Mike Schmidt. It's from the sweetsetup.com. It's one of Sean Blanc's websites, and Mike is one of the main contributors and editors of that website, which I think, Mitch, you would really enjoy it, actually.
Yeah, and he's up here in Wisconsin. I think he lives up in Appleton, from what I understand. So we're up in this area. So that makes a Wisconsin boy happy. So, but I started reading his book, and this is all to say this. I started reading his book years ago because it's taking the idea of being like striking out on your own, working for yourself, all the pitfalls and like being motivated and getting the hustle, but from a biblical standpoint.
Yeah.
Appreciated some of what I've read in the book. I'm not sure if I agree with everything, but I'm liking what he's having to say. Well, I had forgotten about the book until I started with Readwise, and it popped up some of my highlights one day. I was like, oh shoot, yeah, I remember that book. And so I went back in, and I'm like, man, I've only read like 50 pages into this book. And it's like 125 pages in the Kindle, so it's not very long, but I'm like, man, I need to finish this book. And then I realized as I tried to read it again that I need to restart this book and reread the first half of it and then finish it. I wanted to talk a little bit about Robinhood today. So it's a little bit of a loaded subject right now.
Does that mean I can call you Little John?
No.
Oh, okay.
The Robinhood, the financial app.
Oh, that Robinhood.
The investing app. You've talked about it on the show before, briefly, and I'm looking at kind of dipping my toe in the pool of stock market investing, and Robinhood seems like the likely first step in that. But before we talk about that, let's just touch on the controversy that's been going on over the last few weeks with GameStop shorting, and I don't understand all that's going on, and we don't have to get into all the nuts and bolts of that, but just that Robinhood kind of shut off the ability to buy GameStop and some of these other
stocks
investments. Stocks, thank you. And there was a lot of controversy about that and whether or not they should have done that, or a lot of people that were pretty angry about not being able to
lose all their money because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. So, but I had a guy that I work with that was very angry about that because he wanted to throw some money into GameStop and he couldn't buy. So, have you heard? Now we could talk about how angry everybody got, but have you heard the interviews with the owner or the developer of the app?
No, but so part of the app is, you open it up, you've got your home screen underneath, how much you have. There's the daily graph of the ups and downs of your portfolio. And then underneath that is a bunch of cards that you can swipe through. And for like 2 weeks, the first card was, why we're doing this with GameStop. And I was like, I don't care because I'm not investing in GameStop or AMC or any of these other, things. And I'm not about investing in what Reddit says I should invest in so that a few people can get stupid rich because they got a bunch of people to do something that some of them understood what they were doing. I'm sure a lot of them didn't. But I think, like, okay, Robinhood is, to the best of my knowledge, its own company that can make its own choices. It's a platform that allows people to access the stock market. Now, there's obviously like ethical questions of the stock market. Technically, is can a company restrict your access to the market that they're serving? Well, technically, yes, because by signing up for an account with Robinhood, you're signing up to their terms and conditions. And they may say, you can only invest in these 10 stocks on our platform. Yes. Now, the issue, I think, for why a lot of people got super mad is previous to this, you could invest in GameStop, you could invest in AMC, and then Robinhood took it away. And boy, we don't like it when things get taken away from us, Mitch, because we're adults and this is America and we like our freedom. And I can understand why people got super mad, but I can also understand why Robinhood did it, because they have to report all of their filings to the SEC, and they don't want to get shut down because people on their platform were engaging in potentially nefarious investment tactics. Now, I say potentially because it is so gray that I think Robinhood took the conservative approach to cover their own butts to make sure that they could still be a platform going forward, which from a business standpoint makes all the sense in the world. But as an individual investor, I should, in serious air quotes, be able to invest in whatever I want, whether or not I know what I'm doing or whether or not it's ethical, which again is totally open for debate. I'm not saying one way or the other if it was right or wrong, but yeah, it was messy for sure.
Yeah. Well, and when you hear Vlad talk about his why he did it, it also has a component to do with, and I'm not sure that I totally understand the nuts and bolts behind this, but it had a lot to do with the fact that there is a 2-day gap between when you invest and when they receive the money. So they actually front the money for you until your money comes in. So he said that was something that really stressed Robinhood as well. Is like, you've got all these people buying stock, and he's like, well, we couldn't afford to put all that money out there.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
really
we had
point.
to secure. And yeah, he's like, we had to secure investments, and they had to get lines of credit and stuff like that to be able to open that back up for people to be able to invest in those stocks.
Well, and so it wasn't just GameStop and AMC that they stopped before. So there was a point during that same stretch where you could no longer buy crypto without first selling stock or ETF or other crypto that you own. So like, I couldn't just take $500 from my savings account or my checking account or wherever, my bank institution, and then send it to Robinhood and then take that $500 and invest it straight into crypto. I would have had to invest it in something else, sell that, and then put it into crypto. Now that has since changed, just like the ability to, they've removed the restrictions on GameStop and AMC and these other stocks. But I was like, that's super weird. And as someone who, is invested in Ethereum and Bitcoin, I was like, well, what the crap? I know what I'm doing. Why can't I do this? But again, it was to that point of they're fronting all this cash, and Bitcoin has gone from $8,000 to over $50,000 in the past year. So there's a lot of craze and a lot of money going into it, billions of dollars, and so them having to front the cash for 2 or 3 days makes a lot of sense on why they would back this stuff off at the height of the mania, which I hadn't considered. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a really good point. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. There, if you go into the app this morning, I think there's a 15-minute interview that he did with a couple of ladies where he explains that. So,
yeah, I have not.
But I've been enjoying it. I threw in a huge $5 bill into Robinhood just to have a little bit of fun. So and of course threw it at the one stock that I'm familiar with. So yeah. and
You-
I made up to 13 cents over the last week and lost a few cents, and now I'm sitting at about 6 cents up. So
nice.
and it had a lot to do with I wanted to try this and see, what is, you know, Robinhood all about, and how can I leverage this for, any kind of investments that I want to do in the future. And I'm coming to it without really knowing a whole lot. I went into LinkedIn Learning and saved a couple of courses on investing in the stock market and stuff to try and get a little bit more savvy with that. But cryptocurrency is kind of a thing that I haven't really gotten into either. Help me understand what cryptocurrency is. Like, I have a basic concept of it, but
So, all right. So stocks are ownership in a company, right? And their value is perceived on the value of the company, the potential of growth for that company, and then also supply and demand, right? So we can tie stocks to companies, right? Services, products, like we can tie it to something. Crypto, and again, this is to the best of my knowledge. There are plenty of people out there that know more about this than I do, but to the best of my understanding, cryptocurrencies are purely value storage, like gold, but gold is a physical thing, right? That there's only a certain amount of. And so there are limits on how much cryptocurrency there can be, but that's purely a rule made by humans. It's not a physical limited resource like gold is. But it's the same concept of we are going to mine. That's even why they use the term mining, right? Like we're gonna make these coins digitally. We're gonna store value in them, and the only reason the value goes up or down is based on the amount of coins there are, and then the demand for those coins in the market. So it's you take away the company, you take away the service. It's purely about how much value do people say this is. So it's in that case, it's just like money. $20 is only $20 because we say it's $20. It's literally a piece of paper, really fancy, hard to counterfeit paper, but it's the same concept of money. This has value because we say it has value. And $20 when you and I were kids was a lot more than $20 is nowadays. Same money,
yep.
Similar looking bill, updated a few times, but you can get a whole lot less with $20 than you could get back when we were kids. So it's the same concept, but way more volatile because it's a global currency and it never stops trading. Like the stock market shuts down at a certain point, right? And then it picks up in Asia and Europe and that sort of stuff. But it is purely a value storage, and it's so new. And so to your point, there's so many people that don't understand what it, and like my understanding of it is like very shallow. I know enough to be dangerous, but I would never give advice. Let's put it that way on what you should and shouldn't invest in. But it's a value store based on supply and demand and the overall outlook of, what people say it's worth, which is why it's gone up and down. And, Tesla's like, oh, we're going to invest however many, millions of dollars in, and it just spikes. So you've got some people saying that Bitcoin's going to break $100,000 this year, and you've got other people that say 48,000 isn't even tenable, so it's going to crash back down into the 20s. The experts have no idea what's going to happen with it. Like if one expert says it's going to go back down to 25, and another expert says it's going to go up to $100,000, then no one knows. Nobody knows, because that's literally getting cut in half or doubling in a year. So it is incredibly volatile. Still very, very new, which is what makes it exciting, because it's like, I wonder what it's going to do today.
Yeah.
So I got lucky because I started my investments in March when Bitcoin was at $8,000 and it's now at 53. So
56 actually.
Was it 56? Oh gosh, I haven't checked it since the other day. So 56.9. Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah. And Ethereum's up over 2,000. Man.
Yep.
I'm not.
Anyway,
I'm not mad about that. I am not mad about that.
I will say that that you know it's good to learn a little bit about the investing process and all that. I will tell you that Robinhood does a really nice job.
Yeah, I love it.
Just the way it gives you the information. It wasn't hard to buy the stock, through Robinhood.
Mm-hmm.
I think they really got a nice platform, and they've got a widget, so you
Mm-hmm.
can watch your money all day long
You
if you
can
want.
obsess over it. Yeah, I have it on
Oh,
my
yeah.
Today View, so it's like I have to go there to look at it. But there's two things that I would suggest for those that want to learn more about investing. Go to Morningstar's website. They have some stuff is free, some stuff is behind a paywall. The free stuff, the free resources they have on stocks and ETFs and mutual funds and all that sort of stuff is really, really, really helpful. Morningstar is an incredibly well respected financial institution. They give great advice, and in fact, they've got a relationship with Robinhood, which brings me to my second point. If you pay the $5 a month for Robinhood Gold, you can get Morningstar like pro investment insights. So you get what they rate it on their 1 to 5 star system, what they think the fair trading value is, and then you get the full white paper on what the company is, what category they're in, how well it's managed, what the outlook looks like, what the volatility is like, what the bullish people say, what the bearish people say. So you get this full thing. And so I've just made it a point of mine. I don't invest in stuff that isn't a Morningstar 5-star stock or 5-star ETF. Because if the pros think it's a good stock, I'm going to do what they say. I'm not going to go like, well, Morningstar rates this at 2, but I think this. No, the people that spend all of their time doing this and have built an incredibly successful investment company say this stock sucks, it's totally overrated. This stock has the potential, doesn't mean it's going to, but has the potential to double its price. I'm going to invest in that one. And even if it doesn't double but only goes up 15%, that's a really good investment. So I would, if investing at all is something that you're interested in learning about, go to Morningstar's website, and you will learn as much as you care to.
All right. Well, that's about all I had for Robinhood, but I am really appreciating the way the app looks, and
yeah, it's really well done. It's really well done.
And I don't hate the app icon either. I can have it on my home screen and not hate it.
There we go.
Which I can't say about everything.
Craig Mitchell approved.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, man. What's delighting you today, Cam?
Dun, dun, dun. The University of Michigan men's basketball team has been delighting me all season, Mitch. It's, man, they are fun to watch.
Sweet.
They are currently ranked number 3 in the NCAA men's basketball category behind Gonzaga and Baylor, and they only have 1 loss this year, and they just whooped up on Rutgers the other day. They're playing number 4, that team from Ohio, this weekend, so that's going to be a fabulous game. But they play unselfish basketball, they play great defense. It's just, man, they are fun to watch, and I enjoy it very much. And I'm going to be in Indianapolis visiting my cousin during the tournament, so we're trying to figure out if we can get tickets to go watch a game, which would be glorious. Sure. So that's what's delighting me. Just really, really good, solid team basketball at a school
I'm excited.
that I'm a fan of.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And you know me, Mitch. I love my college sports.
Yep. And you know me. I could care less.
Yep.
No, I've been tempted before to get into college sports, just because there are advantages to it. There are things that are fun about college sports, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a shame you didn't watch Michigan go up to Madison and beat Wisconsin the other day.
Yeah, that is a shame.
What's delighting you, Mitch?
You know what? So everybody that listens to the show knows my love of Star Wars. And this year they've started a new chapter, so to speak, in the Star Wars universe. Now, when you read the books, and this it's starting in a book series, they have some comic books that are going to be coming out. I don't know that they're delving into any TV shows or movies at this point. I haven't seen anything come out about that yet. But it's Star Wars: The High Republic, and it has nothing to do with people getting high on spice, which is a thing in the Star Wars universe. This is the Republic at its height. There's some malevolence that's growing in the outer rim, and there's stuff going on, and there was a big disaster, and it's affecting a lot of different areas of the galaxy, and that's where this series basically gets kicked off.
Yeah, sorry, I need to interrupt just for context. So when you say it's like the height of the Republic, we're talking like the old Republic, so before all the movies.
This is 400 years before the Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, yeah. So way in the past.
So yeah, so this is the height of the Republic.
Would you say it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
Yes, I would say.
Oh, you hate me so much. I'm sorry. Carry on.
You know, it's I can't slap you through the computer. So. All right. So basically the first book in the series, and I think it's important to read this book first, because every other book in this series kind of stems off of really the first chapter of this book. And what happens basically is that there's a disaster in hyperspace, and it affects the whole Republic, because they have to shut down hyperspace lanes to deal with this. So it's a far-reaching disaster for everybody, because basically, if you have something, and we've never seen this before in the Star Wars universe, where something has affected the hyperspace lanes to the point that they've had to shut down whole parts of the galaxy, and made them inaccessible to people, because this disaster, basically a ship blows up in hyperspace, and things are getting thrown out of these hyperspace lanes into different star systems, and killing people, and in one case almost destroyed an entire star system. And so as you're reading through the different novels, they're all kind of like different areas dealing with this, and then self-contained stories that are affected by this event. And so I've read, the first one is Light of the Jedi, which is basically how they kicked off the whole thing. I'm reading Into the Darkness right now, which they're not really linear books in that way. They're basically kind of all happening at the same time, or within the same time period. So you're not getting like read this book first, then read this book, and then read this book like a trilogy of books would be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're reading the books, they all kind of interconnect in some way with this disaster. So I'm reading Into the Darkness right now, which is really, really interesting, because it's diving into the whole concept of force objects, the idea of being able to imbue an object with the force, whether it's light or dark. And they run across some objects that are dark side objects, and so I'm about halfway through the book. I'm not into it far enough to really understand where they're going with this, but it's been interesting so far. But I have been enjoying these books as much as I enjoyed some of the early books that I read in the Star Wars books, which are all pretty much legends now. So if you haven't heard me explain this before, there's two different categories of Star Wars books and comics. There's the ones that are considered to be canon, which when Disney took over, or when they bought Lucasfilm and they started creating more works in the Star Wars universe, they basically said all the books that had been written up to that point were now Legends books. They were no longer canonical. They could be, but they're handled more like mythology, or things that might have happened in the past or future, or whichever, that these things might have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't hold themselves to just the immense amount of extended universe stuff that had been created up to that point. Totally understand where they're coming from with that. But what has been really fun is to watch them start bringing some of the legend stuff back into the Star Wars universe into canon. Which Grand Admiral Thrawn was a big one, and when you'll see Grand Admiral Thrawn when you get into the Rebels. The books that I would have recommended to anybody who is starting to read any of the books would have been the first Thrawn trilogy, which is technically Legends right now, but some of the best written books that I've read in the Star Wars universe. I'm almost changing some of my feelings on that. I certainly think that the Thrawn trilogy, or the original Thrawn trilogy, there's actually a newer one that is canon that came out, and now they're working on a second one, the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. But the original Heir of the Empire, trying to remember the other books in that series. Heir of the Empire is the first one, though. Those are great books. I don't want to take away from that, but these High Republic books are kind of getting back to the way they told stories in those early Legends books, and I'm really enjoying them. They're good.
The sheer amount of books and comics out there. I found a website that like lists the chronological order of everything that's canon, and I just kept scrolling and scrolling. I was just like, oh my, because I remember like I read like the Rogue One books and like all that stuff back in like the 90s. I was all into that. None of that matters now, apparently, because it's all legend. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It's Legends. Like it exists. It's there, Legends, right? Yeah. But I had become so unaware of the growth of all that stuff that I went back like 2 months ago and I was just like, I had no idea how much there was outside of the movies because I was just ignorant. There's a lot, Mitch.
Yeah. Well, not that long ago, I bought the Dawn of the Jedi comic series.
Mm-hmm.
This is I think the interesting thing about the Star Wars universe is that there are different feelings about how all this started. In canon right now, what you're going to get is, and I think it's in the Clone Wars, where you meet the father and Ashla and Bogan, the light and the dark side children of the father. And when you go back into Legends, to anywhere from 10,000 to 25,000 BBY, so you're going way back to I mean, they're called the Dawn of the Jedi books and comic books for that reason. This is where the Jedi started. The story and the concept of the Force in that time period is so different from the way it is now. The concept now, they're living on Tython, and they have the moon Bogan and the moon Ashla, and that's where the Ashla and Bogan thing comes from, the light and the dark. If you were a Jedi, your goal as a Jedi was to be in balance with the Force. So your Jedi would use some dark side stuff as long as you stayed in balance between the light and the dark. Now, as you get further and further through history, and even where I'm at in the High Republic right now, they have divorced themselves from using the dark because it's too dangerous. You have to only be light side. And that's where you start getting what they refer to as gray Jedi, who kind of take that original concept from Dawn of the Jedi, and they walk the line between light and dark and balancing the light and dark. So that's what I found super interesting. And on Tython, they would, if you were out of balance and leaning towards the dark side, they would send you to the Bogan, the moon, to get back into balance. In, you know, your goal was, and you'd be imprisoned on the moon until you got back into balance with the Force, and then you could come back to Tython. So it's really interesting how the concept of the Force changes over time, you know, through all the books, you know, Legends and canon books.
So 2 things.
Yeah.
The concept of balance, right? I have never understood how the prophecy, right, about the one that would bring balance back to the Force, how the Jedi ever interpreted that as him being a good guy. There was like 300 Jedi and 2 Sith Lords. It was already out of balance. Balance means equality. So how could you possibly think that balance meant getting rid of the dark side? Like, it just blew my mind how they ever thought that the prophecy was going to be fulfilled by someone on the light side. Like, just, guys, words mean things. They have definitions. So that has always bothered me about Star Wars. Secondarily, and more lightheartedly, and you can judge me all day for this, I didn't know what BBY and ABY stood for, so naturally I thought, oh, before Baby Yoda and after Baby Yoda is what I thought it meant. Turns out it's the Battle of Yavin, not Baby Yoda. So that's where I was at. Right. That's how I had no idea. I was, again, going through that website. I'm like, what's this BBY, ABY? And that's what I thought it meant. And then I got to where the Mandalorian was, and I was like, oh, crap, it can't be that.
Yeah, so the Battle of Yavin is the first battle in the Star Wars A New Hope, the first destruction of the Death Star. So just so to give context to,
yes, just like shooting womp rats.
Yeah.
Anyways, now that I've officially outed myself as not knowing what that meant.
So the prophecy is dealt with a little bit in Master and Apprentice. That book took place a little bit before the Phantom Menace, when Obi-Wan was just starting with Qui-Gon Jinn, and Qui-Gon Jinn was really huge into prophecy, and at the time the Jedi were believed that getting into prophecy was a path to the dark side. So he was kind of a rebel and kind of an outsider because of his interest in prophecy. So when you get into the movies, you don't get that from the movies.
No,
but when you get into the movies, you can kind of see that.
He's pretty obsessed with Anakin being the one and the chosen. Like, he's like, to the point that he defies the Jedi Council and starts to train him.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that that there's so much in the early movies in the prequel trilogy that really isn't fleshed out. And the Master and Apprentice kind of fleshes that out, that he's kind of outside of this. And he even questions, and Obi-Wan questions the validity of the prophecies and whether or not they're really true. I think there's 2 ways that you can take that prophecy of balance. The one who's going to bring balance to the Force is the one who's going to bring balance to the galactic force that you're going to. And really, when you look at Anakin, he kind of did that because he led the charge to kill off all the Jedi, and really did kind of bring some balance back to the Force. But you could take it in a different direction, that it was someone that was going to go back to the whole Dawn of the Jedi concept of individually having balance in the Force, like not being scared of the dark side, but keeping it in check, you know, because you don't want to fall into the dark side, but using a dark side ability was not going to be the end of what, you know, it wasn't going to be the end. That wasn't going to draw you down that path. Now, when you look at Rey used some dark side abilities. You know, she shot lightning, which is considered a dark side ability. It scared her, but she had a respect for that. and there you probably could go way deeper into that if you wanted to, because she didn't understand the concept of, it's okay for me to use dark side as long as I keep it in check. Didn't have that idea of balance, but you could take that that prophecy could have been taken a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm feeling nerdy right now. This is why I'm a Star Wars guy, not a Star Trek guy. Not to say I don't enjoy Star Trek, but I don't get into it as much.
It's fair.
If you want to check us out, you can check out innerdialogue.show. We have our back catalog available there. And if I'm not mistaken, we're on episode 19. So we're coming up on 20 episodes here in a couple of weeks. So I don't know if we should celebrate that yet. 100 episodes will be a pretty big celebration, but 20 episodes is significant.
It is.
So you can also hit us up on Twitter if you have questions, comments, anything that you'd like to add to the show. We'd love to hear from you. I'm at Mitch Craig.
And I'm at Cam Brennan.
So hit us up on the Twitters. And we would love to hear from you guys, even if it's just to say, hey, we've really been enjoying the show, or you guys are a couple of knuckleheads, you shouldn't have a show. You can just let us know how you feel. And either we'll be like, thanks, man, we really appreciate it, or stop bothering me, troll.
Very good. Farewell.
We'll see you later, man.
Bye.